And then I promptly walk out of the frame.
We start with an empty chair. Hello.
So I think Meryl was purposely not saying anything because I expected her to say something. Why I walked out of the frame?
Nope. Okay. I just don't worry.
You know, I wonder, please, like, what do they think? Because we all every video starts with us like rolling about something.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, House of Leaves. This monster of monsters.
Yeah.
I read some Wikipedia.
Good. I'll get you started. About ergodic literature, isn't that what it's called? Something like that?
I've not heard of it.
Oh, I thought that's what it said on the Wikipedia page. It's like literature that forces you to work hard.
I don't like that. Whatever books those are, I don't like them. This is what I've learned. I think it's a good book. I just don't want to work this hard.
Exactly. Like, I am impressed by the amount of work that the author put into it and the many layers that he created. I found that very impressive. I just, for as hard as I had to work to excavate all those layers, I did not find that the end result was worth the effort.
Yeah. And I think, so I didn't, I'm not finished by any means, but I watched a lot of reviews because I realized very quickly that you can't really be spoiled for this book because it just has so many layers that, like, no matter what you hear, there's more.
Right.
But yeah, that's like all the reviews were just like, this book was like so hard to read and like either like emotionally hard or scary or just laborious or some combination of that. And I don't think it's really as creepy as people made it out to be.
I did not find it that scary. Like, some people are like, this is the scariest book I've ever read. And I'm like, I get scared very easily. And I did not find this scary because most of the time I was just going like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Like, why are you going, spoiler, but why are you walking into another door into the pitch black?
Yeah.
Without telling anyone, without any way of finding your way back. And like, I don't care if you die.
Right, exactly. Like, if I was in a house and then I suddenly realized that the walls were moving on their own, I would be like, I am leaving now, thank you, goodbye. I would not be like, hey, here is a giant cavern that just appeared. Let me go walk in it and see what happens.
Also, let my children just like stand at the doorway while I'm doing so.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that like the horror movie thing though? It's always so stupid.
But for as much work as he put into the book for the layers, I would expect a little bit more believability into like why they're going into this place.
Yeah, because you would think that it would like ramp up a little more slowly. Like, okay, like this door appeared and like that's kind of weird, but like maybe we forgot it was there and maybe the tape cut out and like whatever, like maybe the bookshelf broke. Like I can see them like rationalizing as it gets like weirder and weirder, but instead it just went from like, hey, the wall shifted to like, hey, this giant like cavern has appeared that seems endless and doesn't correspond to the outside of our house. So like, let's just go in it.
Wait, is it bigger on the inside?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Much bigger.
I mean, that's how it starts out as like the closet that appears is like a half an inch bigger than the corresponding wall on the outside of the house. But then it very quickly jumps to like a door that should open to the backyard opens to like a giant dark hallway.
That sometimes is 10 feet and sometimes is 50 feet.
Yes.
I was just making a Doctor Who.
No, I understand. I understand it's a Doctor Who corollary. But
But like with Doctor Who, at least like you know what you're getting yourself into, and it's not the scary dark pit that you're just descending into.
Right. And yeah, and like Karen is just like, oh, just don't go in it, please. Not like, let's move the F out of here immediately.
Or like, you can go and explore that, but let's live somewhere else. Even.
Yeah.
I get that you really want to know what's happening over there, but I don't want my children in this house that there is a magical closet.
Right. Yeah.
Growling darkness.
So I think that's okay. So the two things people seem to get scared about are like the magical closet of darkness and the like Johnny what's his face's descent into madness. Like that seems to freak people out.
But he started off like an abused child into drugs, sexually promiscuous, and like working very like transient jobs. Like it's not like right. I'm not finished yet, so I don't know how far he dives, but it's not like he's a reliable narrator from the beginning.
No, and he's not relatable. Like the fact that he just like every woman he meets like immediately wants to jump his bones. I was like I could not relate to him in any way where I was like, oh, I feel like I too am becoming crazier as this book goes on. I was just like, who are you? What is this?
I guess like there is some merit to like becoming obsessive about something to the point where you can't leave your own apartment. And I guess in that sense, it's a little bit relatable of like, I can't not do this thing that I want to stop doing. And I guess like in some aspects, it links back to the book and that like, I think for a lot of people, I can't stop reading this book to figure out this book. And so you relate to Johnny in that like you're both trying to figure out the same code of the same book. But yeah, I agree. I don't feel invested in any of the characters except for Daisy.
Yes.
Daisy is the daughter in the house. She's like a little girl.
Right. Yeah.
I just like relate to wanting to be on some tall dude's shoulders at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, I was sad about the brother. Like I
haven't gotten to that part yet.
Oh. Well, he was
but I know what happens because
he was just trying to be a good brother and like come and help out and support them and do what he could within his abilities, and then the house ate him basically. That was sad.
Did he willingly go in?
I figured that was going.
Did he willingly what?
Go in to be eaten?
No, because he didn't like he stayed at like the whatever they called it, the like base camp. Where he like at one point they were like, okay, you need to come down the stairs, and he was like, no, and then he went and got a rope because that was as much as he felt comfortable doing. But then they were out of the hallway and they were back in the house and like everything was fine and they were packing up to go, and then the house just like eats him basically because he's trying to save the children. Yeah.
Well, that's sad.
It was sad. Like, I know. It's like if everyone had just gotten the F out of the house when they first figured out that it was a weird house, then he would not have had to die.
Yep. Do we know why it's called House of Leaves?
I think the leaves, well, there's some theories. There's a lot of theories about this book. I don't know how far down the internet rabbit hole you went, but
I went maybe a day's worth. But I also like am not as invested as some of the reviewers that reviewed it. So
well, one of the ideas is that the leaves are like the leaves of the book or like the pages that he finds. And so like the house, because as he says, like there's no evidence that the house ever existed, let alone or I should say there's no evidence that the movie about which Zampano was writing even exists, let alone that there's a house anywhere. So it's basically like the house exists within the pages of the book. That's one theory. I was like, I feel like there's a lot I'm missing here. So then I went online to be like, why is the word house always blue? Why is it like, and then
I don't
it was
think
like,
there's a reason though.
It depends. So like, there's all these forums on the author's website where people basically just like share theories It's like, well, one time he said this, and so really it stands for like the blue screen in movies and how you can project whatever you want on it. And then people are like, but maybe it's symbolic of this, and maybe blue in this other language is like this word, which has 4 letters, which is like, okay, this is too far down the like conspiracy rabbit hole for me.
Yeah, well, that's what I felt too. Like I was reading and like reading the footnotes and then skipping the footnotes because they were annoying me to no end. And then like I basically only read the footnotes in the end of my reading when it was Johnny or it was talking about the appendices.
Yeah.
But like I got to the point where I was like kind of almost losing respect for the author because I was like, you know what? Maybe he does have 40 codes in here, but I don't want to go back to every page and read the third German word and translate it to English to make a sentence to lead to an appendix. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not that invested.
Yeah. And I don't know that there is a right answer. That's what I got from like the time that I spent going through these forums, is that it's not like there's a code to break. It's just like, there's all these theories. So like at one point, yeah, Zampano says like, I will create a sun out of paper or something. And then there's like, that's a journal entry. And then 9 months later is the date that is Johnny's birthday. So it's like, maybe Johnny is Zampano's son. Maybe Johnny doesn't actually exist and he's part of the book that Zampano wrote. Maybe Zampano doesn't really exist. Maybe Johnny is whatever Johnny's mom's name and Zampano's son together, because there's like this implication that they knew each other because there's a hidden code in one of her letters. It's like any of these things could be true. None of them are the right answer. They're just all potential things that he threw in the book to make people lose their minds.
Maybe this would have been more fun had I picked it up when it was published and not all of these theories were floating around, because then I could be like part of the theories.
Yeah.
But I feel like at this point, there's so many different theories and none of them seem to come up with a like, aha, I'm so glad I spent months and months and years on this because now I have the secret to the universe. I just feel like it's a think piece. Yes. And I hated philosophy in college. So why am I going to?
Right. There is no ultimate solution because people would have discovered it in the last 18 years.
I also don't understand what the like hubbub is about him making up so many references. Like, I would have been much more impressed if he hadn't made up the references.
I guess it's like, I mean, like, I was impressed by the fact that he could write what sounded like a realistic academic paper, but
okay, sure.
But about a film that doesn't actually exist and citing citations that don't actually exist. Like, he had to invent all of that and create all of that from scratch, and that's the part that I find kind of impressive.
But most of the references don't exist at all. They're just academic papers about a fictional movie, right?
Right. So it's like, but they all sound like they could be real journals and real articles, and it's like that, like, just trying to come up with a title for a journal article to begin with, like if you're trying to get published, and then to be able to come up with like 150 different, realistic sounding journal titles that are like creative and funny, and I think that's where that's I don't know.
Yeah, I can't even name a reflection journal, so I mean I can, but
not a reflection. But one of the things that I read on the internet was that it's not a horror story, it's a love story.
So okay, I listened to a podcast where somebody quoted this thing from Dan Alusky where he says, like, a woman came up to him at a book signing and was like, I figured it out, it's not a horror story, it's a love story. And the podcast hosts were like, he made that up. There was no woman. No one came up to him and said that. Like, that's just the thing he wanted to put out on the internet to F with everyone's minds, just like everything else about this book.
Well, it's like he's trying to just like mess with everybody. Like, look what I can do. I can like get thousands of people to just, what is going on?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that is an impressive feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also read something that was interesting about the fonts he chose. Like somebody was like, oh, Courier is used for like XYZ. I don't know. It was like Times New Roman is used because of this, and like Dante is used because of Dante's Inferno, and like.
And I have to wonder, like,
Bookman is used because of.
Yeah, like clearly, much of what he put into this book is intentional,
right?
But I have to wonder at what point his intention stops, and it's just people reading into things that were not intentional. You know what I mean? Like Hank has talked about since his book has come out, people are like, "Hey, it's really cool that you like did that thing," and he's like, "Right, I meant to do that. That is really cool." Like totally, people just like find what they want to find. And I feel like if you write a book where there's already some of that intentionally in it, that like people are going to attribute all sorts of cleverness to you that you never even needed to put the effort in to actually create.
But that's what became so frustrating for me, was that like, what am I even searching for? There's no puzzle to put together. It's just like, it's like something for me to do when I want to feel academic and have a lot of time.
Yes. Like, or you want to feel philosophical, like, oh look, I have put together these clues and this says something.
I don't know, maybe if I were like a literature, like I were writing like a lit thesis or something that wanted to analyze like hidden meanings in books or something, it would be a cool piece to like analyze, but kind of feels like almost conspiracy theory,
right? With
no conspiracy,
right? Exactly. Yes, yes, that's exactly how the forums felt. They felt like the corners of the internet where people go down conspiracy rabbit holes and believe that there's meaning in things that don't actually have meaning. Except in this case, the author has actually planted things that could have meanings. There just is no right answer to what the meanings are, so people can indulge in that desire. In infinitely, essentially.
I think like another thing that frustrated me, and I liked, but it frustrated me, was that like, I understand the point of it flipping between perspectives, but like also it's like that one chapter in Dorian Gray where he goes down like a rabbit hole of like explaining like the Roman gods or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it was just like, you can skip this whole section and you're not missing anything. And I couldn't.
But are you? That's the question.
Well, exactly. And so like, it almost like forces you to try to find these meanings before you even understand what the story is. Like it took me like a good 75 pages before I was like, what is happening?
Yes.
Like, who are these people? Like, who is who?
Right.
Which is when I started looking at reviews, because I was like, it doesn't sound like this is really going to be that spoiled.
Yeah, no.
And I need to figure out how I can tell who is who in this story.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that could potentially be spoiled is like who's alive by the end of the book, because some people die and then it is implied that Karen and the children are maybe going to die, but then at the end, like, they all basically live happily ever after, which is maybe why it's supposed to be a love story instead of a horror story, because in the end, I don't know, he overcomes his need to run away from her and she overcomes her frustrations with him, and that's how she finds him when he's lost in the maze.
But even like in the book, he was like saying some people are meant to be. Karen and I love each other, but like, we're not those people.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of implications that like they're not gonna last, and then I guess it's supposed to be a surprise at the end that they live happily ever after and they get married even though they weren't going to get married. And
surprise, they're more dysfunctional than you are, but they live happily ever after, so maybe it's good for you.
I don't really know. I don't know if Danilewski was actually trying to say something with this book, or if he really just wanted to create a massive like mindfuck, basically, that like people could just spend all their time diving into and feeling like they're getting somewhere when they're not.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like in that regard, it was incredibly successful.
Yes. Basically.
He has another book too, doesn't he?
I think so. I think he wrote a follow-up from Johnny's mother's perspective, maybe. I think
no.
he wrote a book of letters. You think he wrote something separate as well?
No, I'm just saying no, not more letters. That was a visceral no, not a
not a factual no. Yeah.
I mean, I do think I will it, and I do like find merit to it. I just didn't expect it to be so laborious.
Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of books actually. One of them has 5 volumes.
Oh yeah, I see that. Oh, here we go. The Whales to Letters is the one from Johnny's mom's perspective, and then he wrote some others that just have terrible reviews, and then he wrote this like 5-part something.
Somebody else like posted a theory that was like everything is just like Zampano is Johnny's mom's lover or something.
Right.
And that Johnny was made up by Zampano's mother when she's like mourning over Zampano or something like that.
Yes, that is one of many theories.
Books.
Let me see if there's.
All of his books are expensive. Maybe you can get a House of Leaves hoodie. What do you think of the formatting of the book? Since you, like with just the formatting.
What? You mean like, well, so I did find it somewhat interesting or clever that at certain points the formatting mirrors what's going on in the book. So when there's a whole treatise about mazes, then you get a chapter that's written like a maze with different pieces. When he's crawling through a tiny tunnel, then the words get really, really small on the page, or very few words. Yeah, I felt like that was something that he kind of flirted with as a concept, but so much of the book itself is like the academic paper that it didn't really make sense to continue that for the whole book. But because it's an academic paper, it didn't really make sense that that would even happen in the middle of the paper. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but it didn't make a lot of sense overall. I don't know. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I think it makes it harder to read, but I also think it makes it more interesting to read, therefore making it slightly easier to read.
Yes, I follow that, surprisingly.
On a purely art level, I really love it. I think it's a beautiful publication. I think if I wasn't trying so hard to navigate the footnotes, that I would actually enjoy the puzzle of the formatting, but because I'm so annoyed already with the footnotes, I'm a little bit annoyed with the formatting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, do I need to read all of the crossed out red lettering? I don't know. Do I? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I
Why are all the passages about the Minotaur crossed out? No one knows, but everyone has theories.
I also got really annoyed, and like purely from a publication standpoint, but my copy, you know how like these squares, right? They have these like, and then on the other side of the page, they're backwards.
Right. Except for one, which is actually a different footnote.
Okay, that's just confusing. And I think this may be intentional, but it bugs me that it is like the fourth of the inch off of the other one.
Oh, is it really?
Yes. And so it doesn't match exactly. Like if you hold it up to the light.
Oh, I didn't do that.
It could match exactly, and that would have been so cool. And I don't know if that was intentional because there's like that extra space and the wall was like that much extra space.
Who knows what is intentional in this book, Meryl? No one knows.
I thought it would have been really cool if I could see the light through it, and there was no. It just matched perfectly. That would have been so cool.
What'd you say, Euler? Oh,
She's got her going on there.
Wheeled there. Okay, what's going on?
Are we good?
Yeah. What'd you say?
No, I was saying that Meryl's going on her own little rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm talking about is like, maybe it's intentional, maybe it's not. Some people will believe that it is. Some people believe it's not. It doesn't really matter whether it ever was intentional or not, because that's how this entire book is.
I mean, I get why there's a cult following. I just don't know if I want to be a part of that.
Yes. Agreed. Well, I not agreed. I do know that I do not want to be part of it.
I don't think I have time.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that there's anything to be gained at the bottom of it all.
No, but maybe it's something that people do for the fun of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
If they find the kind of thing fun, I'm like, I got too many other things to think about to try to parse all of this.
Yes, exactly. I did find it, of the things I was impressed by in this book, like I found it impressive to kind of conceptualize a non-existent piece of media that would then be so popular that it's basically like a Harry Potter level of popularity. Like you have like the fact that there are that many academic papers written on it, and that there's like celebrities making jokes about it. It's amazing to conceptualize something that doesn't exist that then would have that level of media presence, and then to imagine what sorts of things people would write academic papers on about it, and what sort of jokes people would make about it, and like just that world building I did find impressive without going into like the formatting and the clues and all that. Just in itself that you could imagine that, build a world around it that's set in the real world. I found it impressive.
Yeah. Well, he also used like real celebrities too, and used their humor. Like there were like notes of like what Rosie O'Donnell said, and it's like she would say something like that, you know, like
right. And Tim Allen, because this is set in 2000.
Yes, also. Yeah. I actually feel better about it now talking about it. Thanks.
That's good.
I feel like that's all the diving I need to do, and now I can just like read it and not feel like I need to dive into it more.
Yes, agreed.
How much did you like read all of the footnotes and the appendices? Because it sounds like you went.
I read all of it. I cannot say that I read a book unless I have read all of it. So I read all of it.
Wait, did you read that page that was like all of the names?
No.
Okay. I was like,
fair point. I did not read all of the names on that page. I just skimmed them to establish that they were all names, and then that there wasn't anything hidden in there. I mean, I'm sure there are theories about what is hidden in the list of names, but there wasn't anything other than names, at least on the list.
Eli, it was like a list of names of people I think I've like appeared in or like contributed to like one of the references. So it was like a list of like author names, and there were like 60 of them.
Yes. But I did read like in the labyrinth, I did read like all of the materials in the little box that you have to keep flipping through. I think because they were segmented, and I wanted to know if it ever ended and started a different sentence.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I did read all the Pelican poems and all of the letters, and Yep. In the end, was it worth it? I don't think so.
Sorry.
But I thought maybe it would help me understand more of what was going on, but you know, it did.
Well, now you can say that you read it.
Yeah. I did. There's that.
Any last thoughts? I feel like I don't want to pull up like questions because I feel like they're all just gonna be theories.
I don't know. Let me do a quick search and just see what kind of things.
Oh gosh. Danger begins.
There's like if there's a publisher reading guide. Sometimes these are just like reading comprehensions questions. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Okay, let me put this in the chat. You have to scroll down a little bit to get to the discussion questions. But the first one is, how did you read the book? Page by page? Zampano's text sends truants? What was your reaction trying to navigate through the book? That's a fair question.
I'm still figuring that out.
But it sounds like you read page by page, but you started skipping the footnotes.
So I'm doing with the footnotes what you did with the names, where I skim it to see if it's any, like, if there are sentences or like, you know, obviously the big blocks, but like if there are sentences, then I will read it like fully. If there are just like references, then I'll just skim it to get the gist of it.
Oh, okay, so when you say you're skipping the footnotes, you're not skipping Johnny Truant's story.
No.
Okay, you're just skipping the reference footnotes.
I just like skipping over the reference ones.
No,
I'm like, okay. Yeah. And as like not just Johnny Truant's, but like if there is like significant text down there, I'm trying to see. Or like there are a couple that say like, go see the, like there's one that was like, if you want to know more about his past, go see his father's obituary type stuff. And I would go see his father's obituary.
Yeah.
Like when it's just like a reference, I don't really care. Like, consider Drew Bluth's summer passage in Architectural Digest, volume 50, number 10, October 1993, page 30. Like, that's a fake reference. I don't really dive into that. I'm not, like, maybe if I really wanted to get into the theories and participate in those forums at some point, I think I would reread it and pay more attention to that. But when I'm trying to get the gist of what's happening in the story, both for Johnny and Davidson, I think, like, it's just too distracting. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But I am reading all the crossed out red text.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, some of these are just theory rabbit holes. Like, what is the significance of the Minotaur? Why did Zampano cross out all references to it? Like, nobody knows.
Or do they?
There's one question about why did Davidson go back to the house, which then like what's his face Zampano like says there's like three main theories and like here are the leading academics for the three main theories, and I'm kind of like, I don't really even care to ask why he went back to the house because I don't understand why he stayed in the house in the first place. I don't understand why he went in that hallway. Like, that part of the question is not the most interesting to me, of like, why did he go back after it tried to eat his children? I was like, I don't know. Why did he go in the weird magical dark hallway in the first place? Why does he do anything? I don't know why he does anything in this book.
I like question number 2. What are we to make of Truant's claim made early on that everything we are about to read is false? The movie does not exist. The house does not exist. Even many of the references cited in the footnotes do not exist. Is there anything in the book we know is real? And more essentially, what does real mean in the context of a novel or this novel? Do any of the characters even necessarily exist?
Yeah, so that is actually kind of interesting because it it forces you to like confront the fact that in a novel no one is real anyway. But so it's like, okay, what purpose does it serve to ask which of these characters are real within the context of the story if you know that none of them are actually real in real life?
Yeah.
Like, does it matter if Johnny never existed or if Zampano never existed? Because in real life, they never existed. Like, they're all part of the author's imagination. So, like, what does it matter if they're the same person or if one of them invented the other, or I don't know.
Yeah, I guess like the way that would make it different is if you are searching for one answer or like a bigger truth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just theorizing, then I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And maybe it's meant to, if we want to give Danielewski this much credit, like maybe it's meant to be a commentary on fiction as not a genre. What am I trying to say? As a category, like, and
as a concept.
Yeah, basically. And like, how much does author's intention really matter? How much does the coherence of the story or being able to figure out what actually happened really matter in fiction? I don't know. Again, it's like maybe I'm giving him too much credit for something that wasn't ever actually his concept.
Well, I mean, the end of that question number 2 says the Davidson record. Oh wait, so if the contents of the scrapbook are false, why would any of the characters imagine not only the documentary, the Davidson record, but create fictional evidence, scholarship, and commentary of that documentary? How is the answer different when this question is applied to Danielewski, the actual author?
Right. Like if we say why would Zampano go to the trouble to invent all of this scholarly research on a documentary that doesn't actually exist? Then we might as well ask, why did Danielewski write a book about an academic paper that doesn't really exist, about a documentary that doesn't really exist?
It's like looking into a mirror and seeing like 15 mirrors.
Right.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Like, it could be a commentary on fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know,
commentary on fiction.
Commentary on fiction. What was that, Eli?
It's a lot of work for a commentary.
Yes, which is what I ultimately come back to, is like, I can be very impressed with this book and what he did and what he put into it, but at the end of the day, like, did I feel like it was worth all the work it took to get out of it? No. I can't say that I did.
Which is why I put it on my abandoned shelf.
Sorry.
You know what? I mean, to be perfectly honest, if I can't read with my ears right now, I don't do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
So, but that's just, you know, life situation stuff. So.
Yep. Well, anything else you want to discuss about it?
I mean, yes, but I'm also kind of tired, so I feel like we could discuss this book for a very long time, and I would feel as frustrated as I am reading about this book for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this. The font thing.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny's text appears in Courier. How does he act as a courier? Just reminds me of that College Humor sketch of all the font conference. You seen that?
Nope.
Oh, it's so good. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Maybe post the link on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Great.
Okay. So are we doing and what is an absolutely remarkable thing?
I would like to do that for next time. Is that okay with you guys?
I think, yeah. I think
that might help to claw back some of the people who ran away in fear this time.
I also feel like when we got on before you signed on, Eli was like, did we agree to read Hank's book? I was like, I don't think formally, but I'm pretty sure that's what everyone wants to read. So.
Yes, I've already read it, but I have already put a hold on the audiobook so that I can listen to it in November again.
Yeah, I saw. It looks like I'm on Goodreads on the other computer, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, you've read. Pam has read it already.
Yes, we get her. I was reading House of Leaves.
I made myself finish House of Leaves before we left for New Zealand because I was like, I am not taking this monstrosity on the plane with me. And so then it was like the day we left, Hank's book came out, and I had requested that the library purchase it. So I was like first on the Holtz list. So I'd read it right away. But then as I started reading it, I was like, ooh, this would be much better on audio, just the way that it's written. So second time around, I want to do it on audio.
I wonder if my library has audio. I may just buy the audio.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I mean, I not to get into discussing the book, but I liked it. It would be worth an investment.
Yeah. We have 2 copies because Brad and I both went to the book tour.
Oh, nice.
Like a book with the ticket. So now we have 2 copies. Like nice. I probably could have given this to a friend, but
I debated about whether I wanted to drive all the way up to Bellingham because that was the closest stop on the tour, but I eventually decided not to.
Mine was just another half hour from my normal commute because New York.
Yep, nice.
Yeah.
55 out of 55. I don't think I'm going to get the audio from the library in time.
I don't know. Sometimes if they get enough requests on one, they'll like order another. Like they'll make another one available.
There's 55 copies, or you're just 55 on the whole.
55 for one.
I am in spot number 55.
On how many copies?
Wait, let me check. 55. Oh, no, sorry, 1.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of holds on one copy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna check the other library and see if that's better. I can stop this. We don't have to keep
We'll be discussing Hank's book next time. See you guys all then. Hopefully.
There you go.
We should not be like